Hey guys, Buckeye Bar Guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, that way anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
We're recording today, Saturday, May 15th, 2021. Beautiful day here in Northeast Ohio. How are you doing today, John?
Good. Happy birthday to our cousin Scott.
Yeah, shout out to you, Scott.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, we've been a while since we've done this, but no, it's a beautiful day so far. A little bit later than our normal recording time because, playing outside and everything. So
Yep.
Good day.
Yep. So we're, like I said, it's been a minute, had some, personal issues and some, little sicknesses here and there. Everybody's healthy, but, it just took a lot to get, through that and, work.
Little man was sick, cut in a couple teeth at the same time, ear infection. And so it was a really miserable week. So there wasn't really any time not to be watching him.
Yeah. All right. So, got a few things, get a couple, not a lot of stuff has been going on, which is kind of a good thing because we're a little bit behind, with stuff, but we still have a couple weeks worth of, news and stuff we want to get through. So, first we'll talk about, just some of the players that have left the program and just a couple thoughts that we have. So the last time we did a show, we talked about Jameson Williams leaving, and
was there someone else in the portal too, or was it just him?
No, there was somebody else. I can't.
Because I talked about Mookie, but that was at the end of the year because I had mentioned both of them.
Yeah, there was somebody else in there.
Yeah, Dasan McCullough. Decommitted.
Yeah, decommitted. Okay. So we did talk about Jameson Williams. There was, he's picked a school, so we'll discuss that. And, Tyreke Johnson, cornerback, we've had a lot of hope for, but we've talked a lot about, that he just never has really kind of found his groove.
Yeah.
In Columbus. So he's entered the transfer portal. Not really a surprise. A lot of hype behind him coming out of high school. I really wish he would have, found the field and found some playing time. We could have used him, transition from that 5-star high school athlete to, a cornerback that could get on the field and, show what he has if, he just never could get there. And,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, it wasn't a surprise. I mean, I think me and you feel the same way on that one, that, it just
never happened. I mean, I think we both thought it for a while. I think a lot of Buckeye fans have thought it, if there were a couple people that were going to transfer this year. I mean, obviously, I think your linebackers, if someone younger than them beat them out, that was going to be kind of like a no-brainer that one of those guys would go. Someone in the running back room was a big possibility. Someone in the receiver room, which happened. Maybe not the guy that, some of us thought that happened. And then Tyreke Johnson. I mean, it wasn't even like someone in the secondary. It was like Tyreke Johnson would be the guy, maybe Marcus Hooker if he gets beat out, but he has his own things going on. Tyreke, I mean, he came in as a 5-star. I think maybe they should have tried to groom him to be a safety to begin with. He was a bigger corner. I think he was projected to be a safety, with the initial rankings. And then he said he wanted to be a corner, and then they tried to keep him as a corner. And I don't know, maybe Taver Johnson that first year, I mean, he didn't do any help for himself recruiting people, or at least he didn't do any help for Ohio State recruiting, but maybe as far as a developmental standpoint.
I do think that's actually when we really come back. I think the secondary is going to end up being better this year than it was last year. I think we're seeing just a lot of going from. I think a lot of the issues that we saw last year is just literally it was Taver to Hafley to Combs, and
and not Taver not getting any recruits
and
that year that he was here.
And them not really bringing in a decent amount of recruits. So we were thin, and they just have been all three of those guys just have Taver under, Trustle's mindset was much different with corners, and I think that's how he kind of wanted to teach the corners. Combs is a little different than Hafley.
Sure.
And so I think just three secondary coaches in 3 years kind of just did its number on, and then not that 1 year just not having anybody that could play.
Well, and and I know it's not necessarily corners, it's more so like secondary, but when Meyer left, Jordan Battle, you lost him because of that. And then Hafley left, and I can't think of the kid's name, and ended up going to Utah though. Yeah. So you had a 0 class for corners in 18, and then you had a really thin class for corners when you coming off of a 0 class, because Hafley gets 3?
Yeah, I think so.
So, and one's a project. I think Cameron Martinez is one of those guys, and I don't even know, did he ever actually play cornerback in high school? I don't think he did. I think he was like the quarterback. I think he was an offensive player. Just that's where he projected. So, and
that kid out of California, that's the one that ended up going to Utah, right?
And I can't think of his name.
Yeah, but he was a big time
it was
recruit, and
it's like James Clark.
Yeah. It's
I'm going to stop taking guesses. So, you had these weak classes, but Tyreke, and that's definitely like a 5-star guy. He should have been able to kind of seize that opportunity, that when Taver gets nobody and then Hafley doesn't get many people, and none of these guys are ranked anywhere near what he's ranked. If he should have been able to get on the field. So maybe that first year of development under Taver just didn't go very well, and he got, a little bit behind, and it is what it is. I think he was just one guy that was pretty obvious that, if someone doesn't really start making their move, he'll transfer.
Yeah. All right. So Jameson Williams. So we discussed him leaving. I kind of said that, that wasn't a surprise to me he was leaving. I always kind of felt like he was the guy in the receiver room that would leave to me, just because I always felt that, I felt he would have been passed over last year if they had a true offseason. I felt that freshman class, and I like Jameson. He's a good receiver. He is the perfect type of the receiver to have in this offense, but he's kind of more of a decoy than he is anything. And that's how they used him. And, maybe he'll end up, showing himself better in Alabama. And, best of the wishes to him. That's where he ended up choosing. It was Alabama.
Alabama loves those fast guys that can outrun everybody, that they can throw the ball 50 yards down the field too. And where Ohio State, I think he was more used as a decoy. It was kind of, the clear safeties out so you could get, where Ohio State's very deadly with is get Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave with one-on-one matchups. Get him in space.
And overall, they're the better receivers. We've seen enough of that. Jameson Williams' dad might disagree a little bit with that, but,
as far as Jameson goes, and I know you said like out of the group you would see him, and maybe I could agree with that because he was a little bit older than the other guys, even though Mookie's gone already. But the thing with him is he does have that special skill set that you still know he would have got good playing time at Ohio State this year. It's not like he would have just not seen the field. Like, he still would have got good playing time. He's still a top 6 receiver on the roster. But if you want to be showcased somewhere, that wasn't going to happen in Ohio State.
No. And I think
it's kind of like the perfect timing at Alabama. If he gets on the field right away, he kind of struck at the perfect time to go.
Yeah. I think we also saw during I think we mentioned this on our last show. We saw it on the spring game. Why it just didn't surprise me neither is that I just think some of that talent on the roster is better than him.
Yeah.
And it started actually showing. And, they have with Emeka now, that came in this year. So now they have options where they can move Wilson to the outside, and you have, JSN and Buka can easily play in the slot.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr. looks like he's going to be a freak on the outside, so they can move Wilson back into the inside and have, somebody like him. We'll see how Julian Fleming's health, how healthy he can get, but I still think he's a playmaker. I liked what I saw at the end of the year. I think he can do better. I felt like from just a little bit we saw last year, he was a better route runner than Jameson. And, so on a lot of the stuff that they like to do, And so, I mean, to me, it was just, I felt like it was going to happen. It was going to be him just because he will eventually want to try to get out of the shadows and try to get on an NFL roster. And he's getting into that point now where, he's looking at the next level. And I just didn't think the next level, he was going to have a hard time showcasing himself. And would he get drafted from Ohio State? Yeah. But I just don't think he was going to get into a day one or possibly even a day two situation. I mean, I don't think he was ever going to get to a day one, but he would have, I think, at a place like somewhere else where maybe he could get playing time, he could easily be a higher day two, like a second round guy over a third round guy. But, if he stayed at Ohio State, I mean, I think he would have been a day three guy just because it's just, I don't think he would have got the reps. And, what Olave and Wilson is. So they're going to get their opportunities, and everybody else is really going to be pushing for that third spot. And he's going to be in that rotation. I just don't think he was going to get the reps this year to become a day two type of guy.
And I mean, with Alabama, who knows? Maybe he can push for late round one. You never know. I mean, he's got the speed. He will be showcased in Alabama's offense.
Yeah.
They're going to, they'll find a way to get him the ball, he's going to be fine over.
Yeah, and even with Alabama, even though they throw the ball a lot more than they used to, I mean, they are still, Nick Saban's offense has really always been, it's adapted some, but it's been, now that he's brought in some better offensive coordinators, they have adapted it a little bit. That it's run the ball and then throw the ball down the field, and so that's when you think of guys like Devontae and Waddle and these guys, I mean even Devontae, they did a little bit more different things with, but a lot of times it was still just take the top off. And
well, I mean, that was for sure Waddle. Yeah. I mean, it's just run past everybody. And I think Jalen Waddle would have won the Heisman Trophy over Devontae Smith if he doesn't break his ankle.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's a good move for Jameson. So, I mean, and I had a lot of this wrote down when we were talking about doing the show last week, but then, all that got pushed back and I ended up losing it. But Jameson Williams' dad. So we're not going to get too much into specifics because I don't want to misquote anything. And so, he had some comments to say on, and part of it's being a father. And, obviously I don't think he feels like his son got the appropriate opportunities in Columbus. And
I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I get you're a father and you're sticking up for your kid and you're saying your kid's the best one on the field. I mean, I'm sure I'll be there at some point in my life and I'll probably be guilty of the same thing. But it's like, just because they're telling Jameson that, hey, Chris and Garrett are guys, you don't fit in the slot. So you're definitely going to be second team. You're going to get less reps than you did last year. That's not like, you got to take the high ground. That's not an excuse like to attack coaches, attack, players saying that they fumble more than your son does. And just your son's going to Alabama. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They win every other year. Like, that's awesome. Be happy for him. Like, just take the high ground and shut up, move on. Like, and no one, from what I saw in there, everyone's, Ohio State fans, there's no grace. They're attacking him for leaving. All I saw were the best wishes for him from our fan base. And I'm sure a lot of people were like, oh man, he's going to Alabama. Like, we're probably going to have to play him sometime in the playoff or something like that. You'd rather him go to a school that he's not going to be at the chance. Like, at the end of the day, he's going to be someone that's going to score a touchdown and beat you. But you be happy for him. He's going to the best program, one of them in America.
Yeah. Like you said too, I've seen that, I saw that, some of them saying that, attacking Ohio State fans. And some of that I don't get. I mean, first of all, every fan base has their bad apples. I'm sure somebody did say something crappy to him. And I'm sure somebody said something crappy to him after his dad, started saying some stuff. I mean, I get it. And it happens. And I've always been one of those ones to Buckeye fans, don't be that guy. I don't like to associate with those guys. I mean, if we see them on Twitter, we either A, we say something to them, or B, we just, block them or whatever.
Ignore them, right?
Yeah. I don't like fans like that. Every fan base has those guys. Ohio State's no different. I think we follow a good variety of Ohio State fans on, that have all kinds of different perspectives and political beliefs and religious beliefs and all that stuff. And I saw a lot of, wish him the best. just like any of these guys. I saw it the other day with Tyreke Johnson. None of these guys. I mean, we all get so heavily involved in Ohio State. I mean, it's kind of like, in kind of a weird way of saying it. I mean, these are kind of like, you follow them so much through recruiting and all these kids that you think they're like family members.
Right. Yeah.
So, and that's just the fan. Remember, fan is a short word for fanatic. And, so, that's just the fans in all of us. So that's what you always see with these guys is that most of these fans, they do grow up rooting for these kids because, you grew up rooting for them. And when they're seniors and juniors in high schools and, the Ohio State's got a good shot at it, they follow them really closely. And, and then, you do. They're part of the brotherhood and, the fans, they think they're part of the brotherhood too. And so
you can't be heartbroken though when a kid makes a life decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's just get over yourself. But there wasn't I didn't see a lot of it going on. I'm sure there was plenty of jerks that were like, oh, you're going to Alabama. You're not putting in any effort. You're a quitter. How they always are. I know what they say. They say they quit or they owe their scholarship money back or some other nonsense
people said that about Nick Bosa and
people said that about J.K. Dobbins that he owed the school money because he didn't come back for a fourth year. There are nut jobs out there in any fan base. Ohio State is no, difference from that. But the majority of people wish Jameson luck. They wish Tyreke luck. And, Jamo's dad, he should have taken the high ground on that.
Exactly. All right. So moving off of some of just the players, those won't be the last guys to hit the transfer portal either. We get used to this stuff. This is a competitive roster now.
And transfers are becoming more competitive too.
Yes. And now that, it seems like the NCAA has officially, embraced, I think it still has to go through the full university vote, but they're going to embrace, that everybody gets a one-time, transfer portal thing without them having to go through any, the NCAA approval.
Yeah.
They won't have to sit out a year. So, that's coming. But so, we won't see, this won't be the last one. We're going to see a couple more here before we get to fall. And, it just, comes with the territory nowadays. So just got to get used to it. Scheduling. So Fox, they came out this week and they said, they've kind of listed now some of the games that they've taken. They announced that they are taking the Minnesota game.
Good.
That's the Thursday night game. So we know Minnesota will be Thursday night on Fox, and instead Fox took it. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be an FS1 game. It sounds like they're going to put it on Fox Thursday.
I figure Ohio State, national runner up, they'll get the main crew out there for day one
for a Thursday night Fox game. So that's cool. Everybody figured Michigan is going to be a noon game. They officially made that announcement that it was a noon game. Now, we're a lot of bitterness from a lot of the Ohio State faithful, and I agree with it to a point. I kind of agree with Fox's point too on it. So they decided to make Oregon the noon game. So that's big noon. Again, so Fox, several years ago, Fox made a decision that their big game is going to be noon. Everybody knows CBS's big game is the SEC game at 3:30. ESPN always has a big marquee matchup at nighttime. So, instead of putting games up and trying to split TV audiences up, they decided their big game will be at noon. Now, a lot of people thought that was crazy. Why wouldn't you put your game up at 4 or put it at 8 and, but last year's numbers were a little down, but before that, the numbers were, their numbers have proved it. And when they have a marquee matchup up there, their numbers have been like Ohio State has done just as well on noon better than the 8 o'clock games in the same weeks. And they've actually been up some big games.
Wow.
There was an LSU Florida game where they crushed the one year and, so like Fox it's not a bad move by Fox to do that. They know they have the open time slot. They know ESPN puts a lot of their weaker games earlier in the day because they have their better games at nighttime.
Right.
So, Fox been like, hey, a lot of these fans are watching football all day long to begin with. Let's put our best game on at noon, whether that's Ohio State or Oklahoma.
it usually seems like it's one or the other.
But you're going to draw those people that are watching kind of just like watching football to watch football because they love football. You know, you're going to draw them into your game. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? And I get like, oh, it should be a primetime game. But if you got to look at it at Fox's standpoint, why am I competing with some marquee game that ESPN has that, you know, there's a possibility, even though Ohio State probably crushes the game at the same time slot, you're still losing viewership because of it. Whereas you're going to get so many people that are going to watch that noon game.
Yeah. And so you're getting a much more general audience. Plus, you know, if it's a big fan base team, Ohio State, a Penn State, a Oklahoma, Texas, which that seems like that's the big four, you know, Michigan's in there too. You know, it's one of those big fan base schools. So you're going to get them are automatically watching the game. I mean, people say, yeah, maybe I wish Ohio State was playing later in the day. Every one of us are up at, you know, whatever time, you know, getting ready for our noon game. It's like, you know, some of us are up at 6, you know.
I don't know. I don't sleep much past 6 anymore anyways, but I mean, Ohio State Saturdays, I think I'm up usually like 5:30 in the morning on those days.
So especially when it's a big game or it's, you know, the first game. I mean, the thing that stinks is, you know, now that Thursday I'd be sitting at work, okay, for that Minnesota game. And you're like, man, I
might have to take a couple vacation days.
Yeah, I might have to.
Thursday and Friday might have to be vacation days for me because that's going to be too much to anticipate.
Yeah, I might be trying to take Friday at least, but we'll see how that goes. But I get the fans' point of view too, and I kind of get on the recruiting point of view too. You kind of now. We've been to Ohio State games. I've never been to a night game at Ohio State, but I've seen them play Penn State. I've seen them play Michigan, and I've seen them play a noon game against Kent State. So, like, I know that, out of those 3 games, the bigger the matchup earlier, you usually do. So for Oregon, I think they'll be able to get a crowd there that is into the game and stuff like that. But there is a difference between the noon crowds in Columbus and the late night crowds in Columbus when we see the games on TV. It's more electric, and you know, you tend to get a little younger of an audience because get the games, you know, a lot of the older season ticket, they don't like going to those games. And I mean, I'm not getting into old versus young here, but I mean, you understand that. I mean, those games are very late for essentially, I mean, anymore that game might be late for me. Like, you know, the older you get, you start feeling that a little bit more. But you do see the difference unless it's like a super, like they're playing Michigan at noon. You get that high intense crowd. You know, you don't always get that against other teams when they're playing them earlier in the day. So I get that point of view too. And you think about having recruits there. That's a big game to bring recruits to. And, you know, you don't want them to have to, you know, man, Ohio Stadium is not that fun. Like, you know, you kind of want the passion and all that stuff. But I mean, what's your opinion on it? I mean, I can see both sides of it on this one.
I mean, I think Fox is smart for doing it. I think Ohio State plays well at noon. I mean, I put on Twitter, when was the last time they lost a noon game? It was 2011 to Michigan, right? Yeah. So, the crowd will be fine. I think Oregon will travel well enough that, you know, people will come out to go watch that. Oregon's one of those schools that have kind of like, what's the following I'm looking for? Kind of like a bandwagon following anyway. So you might have those type of people that, you know, come out for that.
And there's money within the Oregon program. So you're going to get people that are going to travel. And
I don't think Oregon's going to lie down and die there. So I think Ohio State, I don't think they're going to like blow the doors off of Ohio State. At least they shouldn't. So I think you're going to have people are going to be engaged. They realize it's going to be a big matchup. Yeah. You know, you got some big time players coming in for Oregon playing that is going to spark a lot of intrigue in Ohio State fans. I think they're going to stay in the game for at least some point that's going to keep everyone engaged. So yeah, I think it's going to be fine being a noon game. I guess I can agree with the fact that, you know, recruits might not see Ohio State for as crazy as it could be, but recruits know Ohio State. They should at least like have some sort of idea, you know, what Ohio State's about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, and I did see some people say they're gonna, Fox is killing them for, this is such a marquee matchup, putting it up earlier in the day. And like I said earlier, I just don't like that argument because Fox has data now that proves that's not true. Like, Fox is that will probably be the best game of the day, ratings wise. I don't know what else is up against it, but it will probably win the ratings wars. It will probably be the highest rated game of the week. And they know that.
Well, and I can't speak to everybody, but I can talk you or me, and I'm guessing yourself, like, Ohio State games, is that the only college football game you watch on Saturday? Or do you watch more games?
I watch more games. Yeah. We have.
I watch games all night. Like, I
know the camera ain't spanning around here, but this basement down here where we're in is it's got 4 TVs around us that they all have college. There was a reason why it was built that way. It was for football weekends, specifically college football Saturdays, and and you get enjoyment out of NFL Sunday too. But this is the main. Really, the only use we have other times where we have a lot of sports on, but outside the NCAA tournament, you don't always get to use all 4 TVs.
Right.
And so, and I know a lot of people that maybe don't have this set up, but they bring, they bring 2 TVs into they have their TV, they bring a second TV in, and then they're watching a third game on their computer.
I have one TV in my living room at home. I set up a projector, I watch my iPad, and I got my main TV. So even I'll set up 3, things I can view in there. I'll put the projector up on my computer, have the television, have my iPad next to me.
And you're following other games on your cell phone.
On my phone, yeah, exactly.
So, that's a lot of people. And that's just, like I said, and there's a lot of people that are turning in at noon and been like, Ohio State is on on a TV set. Even if their team is on, they might be watching a game of somebody that they root for, but I guarantee there's some sort of second TV, whether that's a second screen, whether that's computer, phone, TV, projector, don't matter. That's also got Ohio State on.
Right. And, then there's those sadistic people out there that they're just turning on because they think Oregon's going to beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
You got those crazies out there too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only reason why the Michigan fans are watching.
There's plenty of people out there that they only turn on to see Ohio State.
It's like why Ohio State fans, why we always watch Michigan games, because, we like to laugh at them. Look at that.
We've gotten a lot more laughs than they have.
Yeah, look at that stupidity. Their laughs come in national championship games. If we lose a national championship game, our laughs come when they lose to, Rutgers, when Rutgers is playing a game with them in the fourth quarter.
I'm sorry. Rutgers takes you to 2 overtimes. I'd much rather, I don't want to say I'd rather lose by 30 to Alabama, but I don't know. I think losing by 30 to Alabama and losing to Appalachian State are kind of, same level. One's probably worse than the other.
Yeah.
Even if it was just within a field goal.
Yeah. So, but that's just my thoughts on the scheduling. I don't see the big deal necessarily in it on the Fox. I get why Fox did it originally. I think I had a much bigger issue when Fox made that decision several years ago that their big game is going to be a noon game, and then
not being that bad.
And then it seemed like now when you look at the reasonings behind it, and now there's data to prove that they were correct, that you can't argue with Fox. Fox has been like, yeah, this has been a proven method for us. So
2 years ago, was Wisconsin or Penn State less enjoyable for you?
No,
I didn't think they were.
And most Buckeye games, for whatever reason, maybe is I just like Gus and Joel a lot better than any crew,
anything ESPN has to offer.
Maybe I like those guys just that much better. That seems like I enjoy watching the games more on Fox. So.
National title game, Wyatt Davis, who we might talk more about the draft here in a second. Wyatt Davis is rolling around on the ground holding his knee, and Kirk Herbstreit's talking about Antoine Jackson being hurt, and then talking about the depth on the offensive line. I don't know. I think Herbie might have been on something that night, because that whole thing was so good. I was screaming at my television, it's Wyatt Davis, because he kept saying Antoine Jackson, because they both wear 52. Yeah. And I'm like, how don't you know what side of the ball they're on? The offense is out there. Yeah.
And Fowler makes mistakes like nobody's business with some of the stuff he says.
Yeah, he don't like Ohio State, so.
Yeah, so, all right, so speaking of draft, let's get into the draft a little bit.
All right.
So, Justin Fields fell a little further than I thought.
Yeah.
But he didn't fall as far as a lot of people thought. I knew the minute the Bears came up,
they were taking
him. They weren't coming up to take Mac Jones. I knew that from the minute it happened. I'm like, Justin Fields is going here. Nothing against Mac Jones. Teams don't trade up to draft a guy like Mac Jones. Where,
No.
you know what you're getting with Mac Jones. I'm sorry. He doesn't have, his ceiling's already been reached. And that's not saying he might end up being a great NFL quarterback. I don't know. It might work for him. He's going to a very good team in the Patriots. They have a smart, offensive coordinator, Bill Belichick. I don't know what him and his buddy Nick Saban drink out of Alabama, but I mean, they're going to go down as the two best football coaches of all time. And,
Right.
so like,
I know.
But when the Bears came up, I'm like, all right, Justin Fields is being taken here. I knew it from the minute that I saw that they traded up, and like, all right, Fields is going. So at least he didn't fall any further than that. I still think it was crazy that the Niners took Trey Lance over him. And I get it. You fall in love with somebody. You think maybe he's more moldable than Justin Fields. It's just everything that supposedly he does well.
Fields does well.
Does well, and Justin Fields did it at a much higher level and
in much more games.
Yeah, so like I don't know, like that was really confusing to me. Even like, so I mean, there's so many similarities between the two of them, except one of them did it at the highest level and one of them's doing it in Division 1 AA. And I'm not talking bad about those schools. I mean, there's some big time players that come out of the lower divisions, but Justin Fields has done it against much better competition.
Right. And that's Justin Fields has done it against better competition. I mean, and it's like, it's the same stuff with Trey Lance does well. Justin Fields does well. And I mean, Justin Fields is a Heisman Trophy finalist. I think we've just said this, but I just can't believe. To me, it was like, it's everything Justin Fields does with less than like half the actual experience that Justin Fields has. And it makes no sense to me. I mean, the guy is a project. Like, I could understand saying like, well, Justin Fields, has hit his ceiling, not that great, whatever. Trey Lance has a much higher ceiling. We're going to go with him. I just don't think how you could evaluate that way, though, if you've seen these guys play. I mean, they're kind of like, seem like the same player in senses, and Justin Fields is so far ahead of him and has as much upside. So I don't know why you would risk on the project instead of the more proven guy.
And, and sometimes NFL teams do that stuff, though. It's like when that whole debate is like, this guy has a higher ceiling, this guy than this guy. Like, it makes me think back to like when the Browns drafted Baker, and everybody's, well, Baker was the safe pick. And then really when you look back now at it, you can have maybe an argument with Lamar, but Lamar might have ended up being the second most safest pick then out of the quarterbacks. Like in those guys, sometimes it's just better to take the safer guy. And,
well, Josh Allen's fine.
And he's fine, but Josh Allen is good at what he does. He still has a lot of the accuracy issues. I ended up thinking Baker was a better pick than him. I still think Baker's a better pick than him. And and to me now taking Lance over Justin Fields, I'm just like, man, he's been accurate. He throws a pretty deep ball. It's a nice deep ball. I mean, he doesn't underthrow, overthrow. I mean, he hits his targets dead on normally. He's not turnover prone. He's smart. And
he's fast.
I mean,
he's strong. He's as big as Trey Lance.
I mean, it all ends up being obvious what was happening, and that's the epilepsy issues that, we found out about. Nobody can come out and say that. No general manager can say, well, he has an epilepsy issue, so I'm not taking him. And it's obvious now where all that other BS was coming from.
Yeah.
That, it's that they're just making excuses at this point because they wouldn't want to draft him for something that has never been an issue so far for him. But,
right.
And that's, risks and all that stuff that comes with it. It's why, the guy the Browns drafted in the second round, the kid out of Notre Dame, it's, he find out he had heart issues, and that's why he ended up falling so much. So nobody's going to say that because you can't discriminate somebody for medical reasons, but
Well, I mean, if you're don't feel safe drafting the kid, I understand it. It was just like, it was a lot of stuff was made up about Justin Fields to try to, make that
exactly
a possibility.
And I think that they didn't have to say anything about the 11. They just don't have to say anything, being like, I don't get where, you just tell the Mel Kipers of the world and the McShays of the world. It's like, well, we really like Justin Fields, but we really like this guy too.
Yeah.
And, it's a coin flip and we don't know which one we're going to go with. Like, why come up with, he doesn't have good work ethic and all this other stuff that was obviously stupid and BS. And it's just like
character assassination to just justify not drafting someone. It didn't make any sense. Just say, this is our guy. Like, you didn't have to have a reason not to draft Justin Fields, even though you're correct though. From my standpoint, it would probably be the epilepsy concern or the crazy ass, no Ohio State quarterback's ever been good in the NFL.
Yeah, that argument's starting to drive me nuts too. Be like, we've never, all right, several things.
It's not a system.
There's no system. All these guys have been Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, coached two different ways.
Ryan Day coaches, Earl Bruce coached a different way. It's not the same system.
I mean, Woody was literally 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Right. I mean, the guys, he basically for several years till they got Art Schlichter, there was a fourth running back on the field, and that was the quarterback.
Yeah.
He could throw it the 2 times a game that Woody threw the ball. It was, but they just played option football. And it was literally, he was the fourth running back. I mean, Courtney Green, love him. Rex Kern, love those guys for what they did for Ohio State. But again, they were basically just running backs playing quarterback.
Right. Yeah, sure.
And, and then, all these other guys, but yeah, they don't run the same system. They've never ran the same system. Ohio State has been notorious. They've gotten some really good college quarterbacks, but a lot of these guys have never been, they were, Ohio State, after they take maybe some of our blinders off as fans, I mean, deep down, we know a lot of these guys were never going to be the top level pro quarterbacks. They were never in offenses that were, they were asked to do a lot different things. They're not in NFL type offenses. Ryan Day is a much different coach. He's actually been the most pro ready coach that we've ever probably had that understands a lot of those concepts that what makes a good pro quarterback. And now we're getting quarterbacks that are kind of more on that level.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if you look at the history, Art Schlichter and Dwayne Haskins are your 2 projected first rounders before Dwayne. You can say all the crap you want about Bobby Hoying, Joe Germain, Troy Smith, Terrell Pryor, Braxton, JT, who wasn't even drafted, Cardale Jones, who was a 3rd string quarterback. Like, these weren't guys that, they're high NFL draft picks and they bust. Like, the only one I think you could argue out of there might be Troy Smith, and he got drafted in the 5th round. Like, no one, 4th round, 5th round?
Yeah.
One of the 2.
And a lot of people don't realize that, he had those health issues that ended up, the only reason why Flacco ended up jumping him, I mean, there was a lot
Troy wasn't healthy.
There was a lot of talks that Troy was going to be the starter. And, the Ravens loved Troy. And, if it wasn't for that and that kind of derailed his possibilities, Troy could have ended up being a good NFL quarterback.
Why not? But that's the thing. It's like, they have this history of bad quarterbacks. It's like, so does every college. Every big college has a history of terrible quarterbacks. Ohio State, for some reason, though, is crucified for ones that were never supposed to make it in the pros. They were never meant to be high draft picks.
No.
JT Barrett wasn't drafted. Like, why are you criticizing Ohio State for JT Barrett not making as a pro?
Yeah.
Like, no one, it was, the thought on JT was he's either a 7th round pick or he's undrafted.
Yeah. And a lot of those guys that might end up being good pro careers, JT beat a lot of them in college.
Yeah, no shit. Say what you want, Sam Darnold. JT Barrett beat you on the field, though.
Yeah.
And I know it's more the defense than JT in that game,
but still, these guys, a lot of these guys that were the, Connor Cook, back in 2014, where is he? He was supposed to be, this great NFL quarterback, Where's he at?
Well, Jerry's still out on Tua. AJ McCarron didn't do much besides be backup.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay.
Well, you got Bart Starr and Joe Namath at Alabama.
I mean, you still get stuff from Michigan fans about how great Tom Brady is.
Tom Brady.
And I'm not arguing about great for Tom Brady, but he wasn't even the first choice in Michigan. Everybody loved Drew Henson over him. And I mean, he almost didn't get drafted. If it wasn't for the Patriots to take a flyer on him in the 6th round, you know.
You got one guy. I mean, I got to take flack from Michigan fans because of Jim Harbaugh and Elvis Grbac. Like, no, I don't. Like, you don't have a huge line of successful NFL quarterbacks. No one does.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
what? Who did Clemson have that was successful before Deshaun Watson, and he still never won anything?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Deshaun Watson's a good player. Like, he was great in college.
Yeah,
I think Trevor Lawrence will be good in the NFL too, but I mean, Taj Boyd was like the best quarterback that Clemson ever had, and he wasn't an NFL quarterback.
Exactly. I mean, actually, the school that probably had the most success with quarterbacks in the NFL, I mean, I'm not going to go through it, is Purdue. I mean, when you think about, you know, Greasy and Breeze and, you know, I mean, I think, and, you know, Phipps and Danielson were lower tier, but I mean, those two, they've had two guys that at least had long playing NFL careers.
Yeah, and you had like your Kyle Orton in there that.
Yeah.
He had a career.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, some of these guys, I mean, who like Alabama, I mean, Joe Namath's been your best quarterback. Like,
and Bart Starr. Bart Starr wasn't, I don't think he was thrown all over everybody.
No, they played in much different NFLs. Like,
I know. It's just, it's maddening. It's like, it's just one position. It's only one player that comes out of one school. Like all schools are going to have more failures than not.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is a correct argument or correct statement. Ohio State has not had one, but I mean, that's.
And if you break down the NFL, probably the most successful quarterbacks have either been on the West Coast or they've been in Western Pennsylvania. Because
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like, you know.
But that's not one school.
Yeah. And that's multiple schools. And that's just, you know, I mean, Western Pennsylvania had like 4 or 5. And then, you know, what was Jim Kelly's big joke is I think they all drank Iron City or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
I know. It was just, it drives me insane though, because all schools have the same problem, but Ohio State's the only one that ever hears crap about it.
Yeah. Now, so Alabama ended up, and Ohio State ended up having tied for most kids drafted. Alabama had an unbelievable run.
Was it 8 and 38?
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy to think about. I mean, great team. They won the national title.
Yep. Shows that they deserve it.
I mean, they were loaded. But so a couple guys that we were a little surprised with drops. I mean, I thought Wyatt was going to go higher than he ended up going. I felt he was one of the best guards in the draft.
That one still kind of, I mean, I know there's inconsistency with the COVID year and everything, but
he proved himself the year before.
I thought he was dominant though.
When he was in.
I mean, he got hurt a couple times. Maybe that was the knock that he's not healthy, but I think he had surgery. So I don't know. He got hurt a couple times, but when he wasn't hurt, what did he do wrong?
Yeah. And then I think we were a little surprised on Sean, how far down Sean fell. And
there was some real, I think, travesties in this draft. I mean, Trayvon Grimes didn't get drafted. You gonna tell me that guy's not a draftable wide receiver? Mm-hmm. Sean, went 5th round. I don't know. If there was something else there. Like Sean Wade, I don't think he's a 5th round talent. I think Sean Wade should have been drafted much higher than that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think he was probably a day 2 guy. He's a 2nd or 3rd rounder. And we kind of wondered if Randy's,
well, I don't think Randy ever did anything wrong. I mean, he was supporting Sean. He never was like, oh, you guys, Sean made a mistake. Randy would call him out for it.
Yeah.
So, but I think, yeah, I mean, and because Grimes kind of had family stuff too, when he left Ohio State, and then his, dad started getting real vocal. So I don't know. Maybe there was something there with more vocal families that general managers were punishing. I don't know. It was just, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, that's and I don't know, Marvin Wilson, he was undrafted, I think, which I thought he was always pretty good at Florida State. Yeah. I didn't know.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that he wasn't taken.
Maybe I thought somewhere in the draft, but I mean, the Tommy Toe guy went 4th round.
Yeah, I thought Tommy should have went higher than that. I mean, I'm tickled to death the Browns are the ones that drafted him. I mean, I think we
like called it. We were all like,
yeah, we literally both called it because you were over here and we both called it before he was taken. I'd be like, Togiai, boom. Because the Browns came up and I'm like, Tommy Togiai.
It was all, yeah.
And we screamed from the minute.
I'm thrilled for it. I think he'll do very well for Cleveland. I still think Tommy's going to be the steal of the draft. I think Justin at 11 though is great value for the Bears. Amazing value for the Bears. Sean Wade in the 5th round, I think, is a steal as well. So I think a couple of those Buckeyes, falling down, they're really like some teams got real lucky to get them where they got them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just Urban,
Urban being Urban, huh?
So the guy, and I forget his name now, the NFL Network's draft guy, I can't.
Yeah, I don't.
He didn't make
Jeremiah something, right?
Yeah, he made a good point that Urban needed to be careful with taking guys that he recruited and were 5-star guys, and outside of I think the first 5 guys outside of the running back, why is the name escaping me? The kid from Antien. Besides him, I think every one of those out of his first 5 picks were all 5-star kids, and and he said, hey, the star game doesn't necessarily matter anymore. It's I mean, these are guys that have matured at different levels, different types of players. You're drafting for need more than you're drafting for, hey, let's take, the best player on the board is great for 1st round, maybe 2nd round. But once you get past that, you need to
get the best player for what you need.
You need who's your best? I need a left tackle or a center. Who's the best guy on the board? And so, I thought he brought up some good points, and he said it's been one of the biggest issues college coaches have always had when transitioning to the NFL that goes a lot further than just the star ratings, and a lot of times they get fixated on that, especially big-time college coaches that are used to recruiting 5- and 4-star kids. That, you're looking for a lot of different types of things, and, you might have had a great rapport with him 4 years ago when you tried to recruit him to the school you were coaching at, but, there might be 10 players better than him right now at the position that you're drafting at, and, you should be taking one of those 10 players if they fit your need better.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with that, and I thought ETN was a reach in the 1st round. I didn't think you needed him. I don't know if it was just something like to pair him with Lawrence or something like that, but I mean, you have 2 running backs on your roster.
Yeah, right? They didn't need to.
You didn't need to take him there unless you're gonna shop one of those other guys now that you have on your roster. And so I didn't get that. I mean, I'll give Urban the benefit of the doubt for 1 year. I mean, he got Trevor Lawrence. That was the.
I mean, it was the smartest pick in the draft. It was the no-brainer. I mean, I felt like, maybe I was wondering what his thought of Justin Fields was. I always thought if he didn't take Trevor Lawrence, it was going to be Justin Fields, but I was assuming he would take Lawrence. It was just the safest, most sure-handed pick. A pick he's not going to get fired for. So, you know, that,
did he draft Luke Farrell too high?
I kind of think he did. I mean, I like Luke. I mean, and who knows? Maybe he didn't. I mean, he might know stuff that, I mean, obviously he coached Luke. Yeah, he knows.
Buckeye tight ends. They don't catch balls in college, but they get drafted in the NFL.
And, I mean, they're legitimate talents. And, anytime Luke didn't drop much, but the 3 passes that were thrown at him were probably all touchdowns.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, every time I can think of an Ohio State over the last 20 years, an Ohio State tight end that's not Ryan Hamby catching a pass, that's for a touchdown. So, like,
oh, Hamby.
Like, literally, they probably have the highest ratio of catches to touchdowns on the team because literally every pass that gets thrown to them is a touchdown.
It might be 2 balls all year, but they're both touchdowns. I mean, like Hireman, Vanette, that's all those guys ever did was catch touchdowns.
Yeah, so, I mean, it is what it is. Ohio State, they need to use the tight end more. But I mean, it's hard. And the offenses that they recruit now, like, you know.
Well, that's the thing is I think there's room for it to happen this year. I mean, G. Scott's making that transition. It's kind of like he kind of saw maybe like Kyle Pitts did, you know, and even like going back like what Jimmy Graham could do or Kelsey or, you know, Gonzalez, Gronkowski, whoever you want to say, you know, he made that transition. It's just like, it's just so hard to demand the ball when you have three legitimate, you know, wide receivers on the field with you at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Urban does now coaching these guys. I know a lot has been made this week with the Tebow signing. You know, I mean, I think it's a lot of nothing being thrown out there. I mean, I saw the whole comparisons to, you know, you get the ones Kaepernick can't still find a team, and like they're at different positions. So it's an apples to oranges comparison now.
Right.
If Colin wanted to go be a tight end somewhere and
for the league minimum
and somebody chose Tebow over him, okay, I will listen to that argument any day of the week. Maybe he's would be a better athlete prospect than Tim. I don't know, but I'll listen to the argument. I'm not going to listen to an argument on a quarterback that still wants to be a quarterback. I do think it's kind of crazy that Kaepernick has not ever been picked up by another team that in a backup role somewhere. I think I'll listen to that argument any day of the week, but I'm not going to listen to the argument Tebow against Kaepernick when they're not even attempting to play the same position.
Well, right. No, exactly. There is no argument there. And what you're saying is like, I'll listen to it if it's like quarterback versus quarterback or, you know, a different position, even though Kaepernick, I don't know if he's any good at tight end. I don't know if Tebow's any good at tight end. So why would that be an argument? But I mean, Colin Kaepernick wasn't Andrew Luck out there. Like, I think people tend to forget that every now and then because he had a Super Bowl run. Like Tim Tebow had a shorter run in the NFL than Colin Kaepernick, but they had a lot of the same issues.
Yeah.
Kaepernick might be faster than Tim Tebow, sure, but you know, it's not like he wasn't head and shoulders above Tim Tebow as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Tim Tebow has a couple national titles and a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think Urban picking up Tim Tebow as a tight end for a league minimum is any big deal. Is nowhere near the big deal that some people are trying to make it into. He's either going to succeed or he's not. And if he doesn't, you know.
And it's not much of a loss if he doesn't.
And, you know, maybe if he's got awful this year and Urban keeps him on, then okay. Now that you can start arguing and be like, you know, that he's taking a roster spot away from somebody that could actually be good.
Right.
But if he's not good and they ended up just dumping him and like, it's just league minimum, whatever. I mean, and if he ends up being a good player for him, it's a steal. So like as a tight end. So like, I mean, I don't know. I just think the argument was kind of stupid this week from just hearing some of this stuff. I mean, like I said, you can't compare a guy who still wants to play quarterback against a guy who's saying I'll be a tight end. Like, you know,
absolutely
2 different positions. You know,
the argument starts and ends right there.
Yeah,
that's it. Like once Kaepernick is like, well, they won't let Kaepernick be a quarterback. No one's letting Tim Tebow be quarterback. Yeah. He's playing tight end.
Urban Meyer brought Tim Tebow in and said, you're going to be my quarterback over Trevor Lawrence. And, you know, Urban should be fired. Like
immediately, like right there. Urban's gone.
So that ain't happening. And, so I thought some of that was crazy. I do think there's more legitimate stuff on the, you know, Urban needs maybe watch a little bit more what he's drafting and not drafting. I thought that guy brought up a good point on NFL Network. Then, like, you know, stop thinking back to these 5-star kids that when they were 5 stars, you know, what did they do in college and compared to who's on the board?
What are their ceilings? Like, you know, what are they going to do to the pros? Do you really need them now at that pro level? Is this really a need for you? So yeah, he does have to start considering stuff like that. And, you know, just to real quickly go back on that Tebow thing, if JT Barrett's on the Jaguars sideline in any different capacity than a coach, then Urban's going to be in trouble. So
yeah, if he brings JT in.
But he's going to work out with the Cowboys.
Yeah. Hey, JT was a bruiser. If somebody wants to bring him in as your go score a touchdown in the red zone running back. Like
maybe, I don't know. He's probably gonna, I don't know. Hell, I mean, the guy I don't remember him ever getting tackled for a loss. Possibly.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll sign off on that unless there's anything else you want to touch on.
I'm good for this week.
Short news. I mean, the one thing we haven't had a lot of news the last couple of weeks after spring, but we're getting into summer, so that's going to start picking up, and as they start chugging away to the season. I was talking to our father this morning, and I said it's kind of weird that they're already. I told him, like, it seems weird that they're already scheduling time slots for the games, but now but then you realize that we're halfway through May.
Not that far, man.
And they're literally just 3 months away almost from kickoff.
Yeah, it's not that far. I mean, JT Tuimoloau is still unsigned. He's still out there. So hopefully the Buckeyes can reel him in. I'm not getting overly excited for that one. So we'll see once we can finally get him on campus if we can, lock that down.
Yeah. All right, let's get on out of here.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for stopping in today at the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
I.O.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
I.O.